that he has logically necessary being. All right, quickly. This is a brief portrait of who God is as he's talking to Cyrus. But what I want us to consider is what this God does. I am the Lord, he says. There is no other. Besides me, there is no God. I equip you, even though you don't know me, that people may know from the rising of the sun from the west that there is none beside me. I'm the Lord, there is no other. Verse 7, which has created all kinds of problems with people who walk around still with King James Bibles. I form light, and I create darkness. I make well-being, and I create calamity. I am the Lord who does all these things. In the old King James, it translates this, I create evil. I make the light, I make the darkness, I make prosperity, I create evil. And I've had how many students come to me with their Bibles? You teach us that the biblical a priori is that God is not the author of evil, and yet here it is, right here in my Bible, I am the Lord, I create evil. Take that, professor. And I say, well, let's see if we can slip away from this. Let's look at this text. And we can look at it in terms of the words that are employed. And we can look at it in terms of the poetic structure of the passage, which in this case happens to be a case of parallelism, a common Jewish literary form of various types. In this case, it's antithetical parallelism. God makes light. God makes darkness. God brings prosperity. God creates evil. Wait a minute. Those don't fit, do they? The word that is translated there by evil is a word in Hebrew that has a multitude of meanings stretching all the way from food that tastes nasty all the way to full-orbed moral evil. Burke, your little girl has invented a new word for food that doesn't taste good. What's it?
It's a plague.
It's the plague. That's her word for the plague. She looks at her broccoli. She calls it the plague. I second the motion. So that's one form of evil that the term can refer to. And anything in between the plague of broccoli and full-orbed moral imperfection, same word is used. But in this case, contextually, and with the parallelism, God is saying to Cyrus, Cyrus, I am the Lord. There is no other. I form the light. I bring the darkness. I bring well-being. I create calamity. You all know what happened on 9/11. And immediately after 9/11, everybody in the world was asking me as a theologian, where was God on 9/11? I said he was the same place he was on 9/10 and on 9/12. He didn't move. Well, how could God allow these things to happen? And then bumper stickers appeared all over the place in cars with this prayer, God bless America. And then Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell opined that perhaps the reason for the collapse of the Twin Towers in Washington and the destruction wreaked upon the Pentagon building, Twin Towers in New York, was that it was the judgment of God upon our nation. The hue and cry of the people of this country and of the press was so severe that Falwell and Robertson recanted their statements. Because it was unthinkable to American people that God could have anything to do with calamity. We are a people who believe that God can bless a nation, but refuse to accept the idea that God can judge a nation. And the reason for that dichotomy, dear friends, is because we don't know who God is. Because the God of popular religion is not holy. It's not the God that is being introduced here. I am the Lord. There is none other. I bring prosperity. I bring calamity. I bring the bear market. I bring the bull market. I raise kingdoms up. I tear kingdoms down. I'll raise you up, Cyrus. If you don't watch out, I'll bring you right back down. I make the light. I make the darkness. You know, the two books that I've written that have received more response than any other two are The Holiness of God and Chosen by God. And I can't tell you how many people I have met who have said to me, you know, I read that book on Holiness of God and it just blew me away. It just gave me such an exalted, lifted up view of the majesty of God. Then I read Chosen by God, and I didn't like that one at all. And I said, well, one of two things. Either you didn't understand the holiness of God, or you didn't understand Chosen by God. Because the God who is holy is the God who is sovereign. The God who is transcendent in his majesty is the Lord. He brings good things. He brings bad things. Job understood that when he said, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's the God with whom we have to do. You may not like him. Let me give you some pastoral counsel if you don't like this God. Tough. Because, dear folks, it's the only one we have. That's what God is saying to Cyrus. I am the Lord. You may try to make another one. You might try to fashion another one. You might like to prefer another one. But there is no other. I am the Lord your God. There is no other. Let's pray. Father, the more we learn of you, the happier we are that you are the Lord. The more delighted we are in our souls that there is no other We cannot begin to contemplate the wonder of your majesty. Such knowledge is too high, too holy for us. But we thank you for lisping to us in our childishness as you reveal and give glimpses of your transcendent being, for which you are most worthy of our praise, our honor, our gratitude, and our obedience. Amen.